Motorcycling lost one of its icons this week, a man named Big Sid Biberman. He was legendary for building Vincent motorcycles in the 50s and 60s. We did an interview with him a number of years ago, I think it was 2009, and I thought this would be a good time to show you that interview once again. So, in memory of Sid Biberman, here it is. Welcome to another episode of Jay Leno's Garage. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most legendary motorcycles of all time, the Vincent, and in just a minute you'll meet probably the most legendary Vincent tuner of all time, a man named Big Sid Biberman. Now, this is a completely stock Vincent Black Shadow, and Sid and his son Matthew have built a bike that they worked on for years. This is their dream. It's called a Vincati. It's half Vincent, half Ducati. But first, let's meet Sid and Matthew. Hi, you guys. Big
Hello,
Sid,
Jay.
how you doing?
Fine,
nice to meet
sir.
you,
How are
Matthew.
you?
How are you?
Hi, Jay.
And gee, there's no family resemblance at all, is there? It's unbelievable. Now, you may have seen these books over the years. This is Vincent's with Big Sid. I was fortunate enough to be asked to do the foreword to this book. But this is the first time I've met Sid. You know, he is a legendary guy in the Vincent community. Built some of the fastest Vincent motorcycles of all time. And his son has written quite a good literary work called Big Sid's Vincati. Now, this is a book that I think, even if you're not a motorcycle enthusiast, you would enjoy reading, because it's a terrific book about a father and son relationship. I just thought it was really terrific. I read it all in one sitting. Sid, tell us about your background. When did you first get involved with Vincent's?
Oh, I rode my first one, a Shadow, in 1950,
Okay.
and it blew my mind away.
Yeah.
It hauled my ass so effortlessly at 100.
And your ass was pretty big then.
And my ass was pretty big.
Yeah,
and
it was pretty big then.
And I was on a matchless twin at the time, which I adored, until I rode the Vincent. And then when I got back off the Vincent, it had shrunk till it was about that big, and it didn't mean anything anymore. Nothing means anything after you fall for a Vincent.
That's right, that's right. And then you opened your own shop, and you
Yes,
built
I had a shop.
some of the fastest Vincent motorcycles. Because, you know, as a kid growing up, there was a guy in our town who had a Vincent. I was like 15, and the engine had been done by a guy named Big Sid, and we thought he was like a giant, like Paul Bunyan. You know, we could hold a Vincent under each arm.
This is what I look like standing up.
Exactly. But you were like a legendary guy, because you could make them go faster than
Yeah.
any other motorcycle. Right. Now,
I
this
always had that knack.
this
Always had that
is
knack.
the motorcycle you built. It is a fascinating combination of two of my favorite motorcycles. Now, I used to call Ducatis Harleys that went to college in Europe, you know, because they were big twins, but they had overhead cams. They had all the smart stuff in them. I never found the Vincent to be a bad handling bike, but I think most people would agree the Ducati was a superior handling bike. And what you guys have done is taken the best of both worlds and combined them, the handling and road feel of a Ducati with the power of the Vincent twin. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. It cruises with such lower revs. It's just idling along at 80, just going dong, 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 and just effortless. And it is vibrationless, which is rare amongst the Vincents.
And you built this to lightning spec, which was an out-and-out race bike. It wasn't even really to be sold on the street. It had over 70 horsepower, which doesn't sound like much now, but back in the day, that was a tremendous amount, with a tremendous amount of torque. And although it looks like a Rapide motor, it's built to lightning specs.
Absolutely,
isn't that correct?
throughout.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this has been a lifelong project for you guys, building this bike, isn't it? Matthew, tell us about it.
Well, it is a lifelong project in the sense that for me, because when I grew up, the two bikes that we rode a Ducati 750 GT and his Vincent Black Shadow. And when we would go out when I was 16, 17, 18 and learning how to ride for the first time, I was scared that if I crashed the Black Shadow, you know, like that would be it. I wouldn't be able to come home anymore. But he had bought the Ducati for $60, and
$60?
Yeah, $60. And I felt, you know, and then he restored it and it looked great, but I felt like, if I crash it, it's like $60.
Right.
So that was all. He'd go, "What do you want to ride?" And I'd say, "I want to ride the Ducati." And then when he was recovering from his heart attack, we fell into looking through pictures, and we saw one of the Australian-made Vincatis. And looking at it, I just saw the two bikes of my life like cross like that. And at the time, he didn't want to live anymore. He wanted to cash out. And I said, if you walk out of here, we'll build one. Right. And 5 years later, we
Well, that's
did.
what I thought was interesting. In their book, it's sort of the father and son journey. Now, you guys are probably closer now than you've ever been at any point in your life. Wouldn't you say to say that? And I know there were times, as I read in the book, where you guys didn't get along. You were kind of the headstrong son, and you wanted to do things your way, and you guys would fight and throw tools at each other. It's kind of like Orange County choppers with a college degree again, wouldn't you say? Yeah. Kind of like that.
Far better than that.
Far better than that. Far better than that. Because I know you.
I can't. No, I won't go.
No,
back.
don't go there. I know you had a heart attack and you were ready to give up, and then he kind of prodded you to finish this bike. And this is a bike that you essentially were going to hand down to your daughter, isn't that correct?
Yeah, when Sid was starting to realize that we might be finishing it after his riding days were done, it occurred to me that one day it would be her bike if it wasn't going to be my dad's bike.
And this was not easy to do. I mean, it looks like, oh, gee, they just put the Vincent engine and put a set of Ducati forks on the front, you're ready to go. There was so much machine work and so much excellent handwork. To me, the best ones are the ones where it looks so easy and you don't realize exactly how much work went into it. How many hours would you say you guys have on this bike?
The best way I can give you a sense of time is to say that Sid had his heart attack September 24th, 2001, and we started it January 1st, 2005.
Okay. Well, put it easy way. How many times did you guys swear at each other doing this? How many times did you say?
12,613.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, there were real
14.
There were real knockdown, drag-out fights, you know?
Yeah, it got tough, especially when we were trying to figure out how ultimately to get it back in after we had welded the frame up, because when you weld, then you introduce the possibility
distortion.
of distortions, and that, when it looked like the project might not work out successfully, was a very difficult
Plus,
period.
you had that classic thing of you were a street kid, correct?
Yeah, I was.
And you were the fancy pants college boy, right? And the college boy knows more than the street kid.
Right.
So that's just that classic thing that goes back and forward. It's a generational, because safe to say, up until this project, you guys didn't have a lot in common. You were sort of butting heads all the time.
Right.
And you wanted to do it your way, and I think you realized you would never be the machinist your dad is.
Right.
And you would never be the intellectual he is, because no matter how good you are at college, it's not going to help you fit those piston rings. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Right. Now, book learning don't help much.
No,
then.
book learning don't help much when you're out of the street. And that's the real dynamic. That's what makes the book really a fascinating read. And I think a lot of people have been through that situation. You know, my dad was a street kid and he was a prize fighter. Luckily, I was stupid, so we had stuff in common more than you guys. But walk us around this bike. Tell us a little bit more about it. Now, it's built to lightning specs. Tell people what that means. Standard compression was what, 6.5 on a Vincent?
A Rapide was 6.45, a Shadow was 7.3.
Okay.
Many guys went up to 8 to 1.
Right.
This is 10.0, 6 to 1. Above 10, once I reshaped the chambers, I dropped it a little bit. But it's lightning cams, ported heads, a 32 millimeter carbs and ports. It's a double speed oil pump. Lots of tricks.
Now I notice you don't run air filters. One of the things I always was told, oh boy, your engine will die in a matter of a couple of thousand miles. But you don't like them, huh?
I do like them, but they detract.
Detract from the look of it?
Yeah,
But see, it's all, as you can tell by looking at these guys, looks is everything.
Tell them about the scalloped flywheels.
Oh yeah, well, it's all lightened. So it spins up very, very quick. Amazingly enough, it's liquid smooth, which few Vincents are.
Right.
In fact, when Peter Egan said he was amazed that it was so liquid smooth.
Now, Peter Egan, you probably know from Road and Track and Cycle World magazine. He is it Cycle or Cycle World? Cycle World. Yeah. He is. Cycle's not even in business anymore. That's how old I am. He's probably one of the best automotive journalists out there, and I remember reading his take on it as well. Where can people get both these books?
Well, they can get it from us signed at bigsid.com, or they can get, that's the only place they're going to get Vincent's with Big Sid. That is, we published ourselves. Big Sid's Vincati is a...
I wrote this one, he wrote this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. As you can see, and one book is a little thicker than the other, just like the son is a little thicker than the father. It's almost, you know, it's a dynamic that these two are going to be throwing rocks at each other, but then hugging afterwards. This is what it is. It's almost like a father and son relationship.
Almost. We're working on it.
So you can run regular pump gas in this.
Oh, yeah.
Is that French starter?
Yes, it is, the Grosset, yeah.
Go to set, okay.
Yeah.
And it's a generator starter, is that what it is?
No, it's a separate,
separate.
starter. It can be seen just poking out the bottom underneath.
Oh,
there.
okay. Now this is the Ducati fuel tank.
Absolutely.
I mean, as I go through, I can tell which parts are Vincent and which parts are Ducati. This looks like Ducati side panels here.
Yeah,
Have
it
these
is.
been altered at all? I don't think so.
Nothing, it just fitted.
Okay, those fit.
Yeah,
Standard 4-speed gearbox.
That's correct.
As you can see on a Vincent, everything was adjustable. You can move the pegs up, or if you have big feet, move it closer or smaller. All this slides every which way. That was one great thing about a Vincent. Everything is adjustable. These look to be the Italian handlebars, am I correct?
It's called a European touring bar.
And obviously, Vincent's did not have hydraulic brakes. Those weren't on bikes yet.
The Aussies made a gift of this muffler, which is styled to look like a...
Oh, that's not a Conti pipe, huh?
yeah.
It looks like a Ducati
It's a
pipe.
copy.
It's a copy, okay.
Size to fit onto the standard exhaust.
And the thing I think I like it done, you put turn signals on it, and you've got
Yeah.
all the safety things that you would need in a modern bike. It looks like you have the Ducati gauge here, but you have the Miller.
I mean,
You got to have the Miller
You got to ride
ammeter.
with the Prince of Darkness.
Yeah, that's right. And then you have a
VDO tack.
VDO tack.
Yeah.
Let's fire it up.
It's got its own.
Yeah,
key
he's put
ignition.
too many switches on it.
A key
This is one of
ignition
the things
with-
we fight over.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's get the switch on. Let's get that.
There we
Go ahead,
As
hit
you
it.
can see, they keep interrupting each other. This is Archie
got it
Bunker
down.
and Meathead,
You got
basically,
it
is what you
down.
have here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, here we
Hit it.
go. I love the sound of that V-twin as you roll on the throttle. It's incredibly smooth and very comfortable to ride. You know, a lot of times when guys build these specials, they wind up with something that's less than what they started with. But I have to say, this is really much, much more. It's got a nice sound to it, not so loud as to be obnoxious, but just enough to let you know how much power you're sitting on. And I can't help but thinking this is a bike Vincent would be building today if they were still around. It's almost hard to believe this is a motorcycle that was built back in the 1950s, because you've really got modern levels of power. Vincent gearboxes have always been just like butter if you set them up properly. Set them up wrong, they're horrible, but when you get a guy like Sid doing it, you just touch that lever and she shifts. I look in my mirrors, I see an image perfectly clear, there's no vibration of any kind. Vincents were always legendary for their easy clutch pull. And since this has a modified Ducati clutch, it's probably harder to pull than a regular Vincent, but it's still very, very smooth. You know, they say Vincent used to fire every other lamppost. That was the expression they used in England. And they are that smooth. We'll take it up to the freeway and see what it's like at 70 or 80 miles an hour. It's very light. It is a deceptively quick motorcycle. At 70 miles an hour, you're barely turning 3,000 RPM. My biggest problem is going slow enough for the camera car to catch up. But at any speed, you open that throttle, goes into the corners nicely. So I'm guessing this Ducati chassis is probably about a mid-70s. So this is a perfect blending of the old and the really old. The nice thing is you got a motorcycle from the 50s and 70s that you can sit in traffic and idle all day. It doesn't die on you. It doesn't stall at the light. You know, there was nothing wrong with the basic Vincent design. It's just that over the years, a lot of them got a bad reputation because guys didn't know how to fix them properly. When you find a guy like Big Sid who's a master at these and knows what they can do, you can have modern superbike performance with the classic look and styling. Oh good, father and son have killed each other. I get to keep the bike. Read the book, it's a fantastic read. See you next week.
This'll teach him finally who's the boss.